If you have your Bibles this morning, turn with us to the book of Micah, chapter number 7. The book of Micah, chapter number 7. We, not too awful long ago, looked at the book of Micah as part of our Wednesday night Bible studies as we went through and looked at all the minor prophets. And we come here to the last chapter of the book of Micah. Got about 5 things I want to show you out of the first 10 verses here this morning. And let's just pray and ask God to give us what we need as we look through His Word for just a little bit today. So the book of Micah, chapter number 7, here the prophet writing in the last chapter, he says, "Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape leanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth. There is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward, and the great man he uttereth his mischievousness desire, so they wrap it up. The best of them is as a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh. Now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoreth the father, and the daughter riseth up against her mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Therefore will I look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy, for when I fall I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute my judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her. Now she shall be trodden down as the mire of the streets." And as we come here this morning to the close here of Micah's prophecy and what it is that Micah is writing about, Micah takes a little bit of time and he surveys the landscape that is around him to see, and fully validate what exactly is happening and what exactly is going on and what's occurring in his land at that particular day. And if we do the same thing today in our day and our time, if we look around and we survey the landscape of our country and our nation today and the things that are happening and the things that were going on, a lot of times, two things happens when I watch the news. I either get mad or I get sad. One of those two things happens most of the time. And Micah here, in the close of his prophecy, he looks around and he surveys the happenings of the nation at that particular time. But in chapter number 10, he gives us a really good insight as we get down there to verse number 7 and through verse number 10. He shows us something a little bit different. So as we survey this section of Scripture this morning, let's look at it with a thought in mind from lamentation to celebration. And this is the way that it goes for Micah in this particular chapter, and it's the way that it should go for us. This is the way that we should be looking at things and the way that we should be thinking about things as well, as it's outlined and shown to us here in the Word of God. And the first thing that I want you to notice in going from lamentation to celebration, the first thing that I want you to notice is there's a concern. We find that in verse number 1 and verse number 2. Here, Micah writes and he says, "Woe is me! For I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape leanings of the vineyard. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie and wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net." The first thing I want you to notice in going from lamentation to celebration is the concern. And Micah here shows us two things in these two verses. The first thing he shows us is a fruitless field. He says, here here am I, woe is me. In other words, he's got lamentation. He's full of sadness. He's full of sorrow. Micah looks around and surveys what's happening in his country that day, and he's concerned about what's going down. And he said, this is what I feel like, and this is how I feel. I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape gleanings of the vintage. There is no cluster left to eat. And Micah says, here's what it feels like today, that I'm just drained, and that everything has been taken away. The fields are without fruit. And I don't know how you are, but every now and then, there's a craving that'll hit me, and I'll have to go to the refrigerator, and I have to get something. And there's no worse feeling than when somebody's ate all the ice cream and they didn't tell you. You weren't warned about it. That all of a sudden that thing you was wanting is gone. And how sad and empty. You think, well, I might as well just go back to bed then, right? If I'm not going to get to eat something, I might as well just go back to sleep. And there are times in life then that thing that we want, when we can't get it, we just feel empty and we feel drained. And Micah here, he looks around, he surveys the nation at that time, and he's like, hey, I feel like, and I'm like when they've gathered all the fruits up, when they've gathered all the grapes and they've gathered all the figs, when all the fields have been emptied and I'm wanting something to eat, that's what I feel like in this moment, that I can't get peace and I can't get satisfaction and I can't find exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And here's what we have to understand. In this world that we live today, as a child of God, it's hard for us to find peace and satisfaction in the world today sometimes. It's difficult. And Micah here says, I feel completely drained. There's a concern that he has for himself. In fact, he says, woe is me. In other words, have pity on me and look at me with sadness and look at me with all the bad things that are happening, all the things that are going on. He said, I feel like there's a fruitless field that's out there. He's like, when I go, it's like the time when all the fruits have been gathered. There's no cluster to eat. And my soul was desiring that first ripe fruit. He wanted to bite into something. We went the other night, we went out for something, I don't remember what, but we decided to run by Cookout, and Cookout milkshakes are the best. Except for one thing, that the chunks of fruit are so big, you can't suck it through the straw, right? I don't even know why they give you a straw. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. And I got a peach one. And the chunks of peach in that thing was that big. Now, I don't know how powerful your jaws are, but if you can suck a peach slice through a straw, that's very impressive. I wasn't able to do that. So I'm trying to eat it, with a spoon. They know you can't drink it with a straw. That's why they give you the spoon. You know that, right? So I'm eating it, and man, I got that first bite of peach, and it was good. I mean, it was like really, really good. And then all of a sudden, my concern and my attention turns from trying to drink the milkshake to trying to fish out the pieces of peach in it, right? And alas, I got to the last one. And you know what I wanted in that moment? I wanted one more, but it was gone. And it was sad, so I just ate the ice cream, I'm sad. Micah says here, he's like, I wanted that bite of fruit. And it wasn't there. He sees a fruitless field, but not only that, he sees faithless people. Look what he says in verse number 2. He said, the good man is perished out of the earth. There's none upright among men. They all lie and wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. Micah says, here's my concern. There's a fruitless field that's out there. There's faithless people that's out there. And it's really easy to look around and get our attention focused on what other people are doing and what other people are saying and what is going on with other people. And that's what Micah does right here in verse number 2. He says, hey, I surveyed, I looked around, and this is what I found. The good man is perished out of the earth. There's none that is there. There's none that's upright among men. They all lie and wait for blood. They all have this agenda that they want to accomplish. They're waiting to trap their own brother with a net. They're doing everything they can, and there's faithless people that is out there in the world today. And here's what we know. If we focus on the things we don't have, and like Brother Jimmy talked today about being covetous, and he's probably right. We all probably have a little bit of that in us. Maybe some not as much as others, but we all have a little bit of that in us. We have things that we see, and we have things that we want, and that's the reason that advertising exists. If it didn't affect you, they wouldn't have advertising anymore. They wouldn't try to be selling you anything. But we all look around and our eyes get in the wrong places, and our eyes are fixed on things that they don't need to be fixed on. And here we see that Micah's looking around. He's like, hey, all the good people are gone. They've perished off the earth. There's none that's upright. They're all after everything that they can get, and they're all looking to destroy. And Micah here in these first two verses, he has a real big concern. Not only do we see the concern in verse number 1 and verse number 2, but notice the corruption that we find in verse number 3. That they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward. And the great man, he uttereth his mischievous desire. So they wrap it up. Here Micah says there's a concern in verse number 1, but there's corruption he sees in verse number 3. They all, why are they doing this? That they all may do evil, how? With both hands. With as much effort that they can possibly put into it. They're doing it with both hands earnestly. In other words, this is what they think about when they get up, and this is what they're thinking about when they fall asleep at night. It consumes all of their mental time. It consumes, all their mental power. It consumes everything that they're focusing on. It consumes everything that they're thinking about. And one of two things. If you're thinking on the wrong things, it can drive you to misery. And here we see that Micah looks around and he says, hey, here's what these people are doing. The only thing they think about and the only thing that they're concerned with and the only thing that they're going after is to do evil with both hands continually and earnestly as much as they possibly can. They're going after everything that they can. And he sees here that the people here have greedy hands. Not only do we see greedy hands, but we also see guilty leaders. He says, the prince asked, the judge asked. What are they asking for? For a reward. Now, if you're a judge, what should your focus be? Your focus should be justice. Your focus should be, this is the right call. This is what's right. But notice what their focus is. Their focus is, well, how do I do this that I can get the most benefit out of it? Now, there's people, and Brother Jimmy was right on this. They want a promotion at work so they can make more money, and so that they can tell people what to do. They want that sense of power. Now, I believe that's the reason that Vicky didn't want to work anymore. She didn't want the money, and she had me to tell what to do, so she didn't need other people to tell what to do, right? Right. I might need a ride home. Anybody going to Mount Airy in a little bit? You got me. He can get me to Pine Ridge anyway. But people, they want that. And they covet that. And here, the princes are wanting more power. The judges are wanting more money. And they're wanting to hold these things over people the best that they can and to benefit from it and to profit from it. They're doing evil with both hands earnestly. They're asking for rewards. They're not seeking justice. They're wanting rewards. They're wanting to know. They don't care if their decision is right or wrong. What they care is the decision gets them the most benefit and gets them the most money and the biggest reward. And you know what? Sometimes in our world we look around and we think, well, if you got enough money, you can get away with anything, right? We think that way sometimes. We think that way sometimes because sometimes it appears to be true. We see here there's corruption. Micah looks around. He has a concern in verse 1 and 2. He sees corruption in verse number 3. And then he talks about controversies in verse number 4 through verse number 4 through verse number 6. He says, the best of them is a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh, now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoreth the father. The daughter riseth up against her mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Micah discusses the concern, corruption, and then he discusses controversies here. Notice what verse 4 says. We see a standard that's put in place. The best of them is as a briar. The very best one is as a briar. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never found much benefit in briars. I've never found, and I've had some encounters with them, and I've got some scars from some of them as well, still after almost 30 some years. But I've never seen any benefit in them. They're not very fun if you get one stuck in you, or you go flying through them at a high rate of speed, or anything like that. And here Micah looks around. He says, here's the controversy. There's a new standard. The best is as a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The very best ones that are out there are people that are not going to help you, but people that are going to hurt you. The very best of them. He's not talking about the lowest level people. He's talking about the upper level people. He says there's a new standard that's in place. There's a new standard that's put out there. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh, now shall be their perplexity. Those that are supposed to be looking after us, and those that are supposed to be guarding after us, and those that are supposed to be looking over us, he says they're not any good. But yet they're the best ones. Now, there have been plenty of times in my life, maybe you've done this. I can't help but think of the old song. There have been times I had to go to the laundry and pick out the cleanest dirty shirt sometimes, And it might not have been good, but it was the best one I had in that moment. And here, Micah looks around and he says, none of them are good. Even the best ones are horrible. The best ones aren't any good. Now, how would you like to go buy a pack of strawberries and all the strawberries be bad? And, some of them, maybe the little bottom part of it is okay. Maybe you can get a nibble, maybe you can get a bite off it or something like that. I don't know about you. I don't want a pack of strawberries where I only get one bite per strawberry. If that's the best one, then there's something wrong with that whole pack. And here Micah says the best ones are corrupt. The best ones are bad. The best ones are no good. The standard has changed. The best of them is now corrupt. The best of them is no longer any good. Not only do we see the standard, but what about the ones that we get support from? He says, trust ye not in a friend. Put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. Micah says it's got so bad. He's talking about controversies. It's got so bad. Those that should support you no longer support you. Don't trust in a friend. Man, what a horrible outlook to have on things. Don't trust in a friend. Don't put confidence in a guide. Somebody that's supposed to be teaching you, and somebody that's supposed to be showing you, and somebody that's supposed to be putting you on the right path, and somebody that's supposed to be helping you find the right place. He's like, don't put any confidence in them because they're going to be out to get you, and they're not going to tell you what's right, and they're going to lead you in the wrong way. He says, keep the doors of thy mouth shut from her that lieth in thy bosom. Don't trust your spouse, because whatever you tell them, they're going to use against you later. You can't trust them. They're going to take that, and if they can find an advantage, or if it benefits them, if they can get you in trouble, but it keeps them out of trouble, they're going to get you in trouble. They're going to do everything they can to turn against you and to not have your back, and to not look for you, and to not help you in any way whatsoever. And he says here, those that are supposed to support you, there's controversy with them. And then in verse number 6. He says about senseless controversies. He says, for the son dishonoreth the father, or, performs senseless acts. The daughter riseth up against her mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And think about this last statement here. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. That Micah said, I don't have to go out in the streets and look for those that are my enemies. All I got to do is open the bedroom door. All I got to do is see who's sitting at the kitchen table. All I got to do is see who's sitting around in the living room, and all I've got to do is survey the people of my own house. Those are who my enemies are in this day that he's talking about here. And we're talking about lamentation to celebration. Now the first three parts here, down through verse number 6, we see a whole lot of lamentation, right? We see a whole lot that's wrong. We see a whole lot that isn't right. We see a whole lot of things that are negative and things that aren't going the way that it's supposed to be. Micah here says, I've got a great big concern. I'm drained and I'm zapped out for all the things that I'm having to go through and all the things that I'm experiencing. Wherever I look, there's corruption that surrounds me everywhere. The leaders are corrupt. Those that are supposed to be looking after me are corrupt. My friends are corrupt. My spouse is corrupt. Everybody in my circle is corrupt. Now, that's a really lonely place for Micah to be right now. Full of lamentation. First 6 verses easily get us to the point of lamentation. But the next few verses gets us to the point of celebration. We're going to move from lamentation to celebration. So what do we do? What do we do when we're drained? What do we do when all of our power and joy and peace and satisfaction and happiness has been sucked away from us? What do we do when our friends are our enemies? What do we do when it seems like everybody's out to get us? What do we do when nothing is going right and everything is going wrong and when nothing is going the way that we want it to? And I was thinking, Brother Jimmy said everything in his house broke in the last little bit, and we didn't experience it to that level. But last Sunday when we discovered that the glass in the Explorer was broke, and after we fixed a bunch of things, Vicky's like, well, what's next? What's going to happen next? And you know what? Sometimes life feels like that, don't it? All right, what's next? What's going to happen next? Everything's breaking and all the extended warranties have run out and nothing's going right. Nobody's my friend. Everybody hates me. And let me tell you something. If you'll look within and you'll be deeply honest with yourself, all of us have felt like Micah at some time. We felt that way. The woe is me. Everybody's out to get me. And it might have been true. It could have been true that everybody was out to get you. It could have been true that everything wasn't going right. It could have been true that nothing was going your way. So what do we do when that happens? How do we move from lamentation to celebration? Verse number 7 is the key verse in this, and the key words of this chapter we find in verse number 7. Going from lamentation to celebration. We've seen concern, corruption, and controversies. Don't you notice this? In verse 7 through 9, we see some confidence. Therefore, or because of the first 6 verses. Therefore, I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. We're talking about confidence now. There's a patient prayer in verse number 7. Therefore, because of what's happened, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look unto the Lord. Because here's what Micah discovered. He can't look to the judges. He can't look to the princes. He can't look to the leaders. He can't look to his friends. He can't even look to his own spouse. He says, but this is what I'm going to do. When I can't look in those directions and I can't go that direction, he said, because of all of this that I just said, therefore, because of that, I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. And here's what we know. There are plenty of times in life you have complaints and you have things that you want to talk about and you have things that you want to register complaints for. And I promise you this, nobody on the other end really cares. I canceled our TV service the other week. It took me, it's 40 something. I can't remember the exact number now. But I think I told you 42. To cancel my TV service, I was on hold with Spectrum for 40, or talked with somebody, combination of talking to somebody on hold, 42 minutes. Took me 42 minutes. Why did it take so long? Because the person on the other end wasn't interested in canceling my TV service. They were interested in retaining me as a customer after I'd already told them all the steps that they needed to go through weeks before that to retain me as a customer, and told them on such and such date, when it's eligible, I'm going to call back and I'm going to cancel my TV service. Put that in your little notes. And then I asked the person, hey, read out the notes. Oh, it says here, you're going to call back today and cancel it. That's what I'm trying to do. They didn't care. They weren't concerned. You go into your boss's office and tell them what a good job you're doing and how, you've been going after everything and you think you deserve a raise. They might not listen. Or they may listen and say, well, my boss won't let me do that. They may shift the blame a little bit. Not everybody's always paying attention. Notice what Micah says. I'm going to look to the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. And guess what? My God will hear me. We see a confidence in verse 7 through verse number 9. We see a patient prayer in verse 7. We see a persistent hope in verse number 8. He says, rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. We see a persistent hope that is there. Micah looks at all of his enemies and says, you better not be rooting against me too hard, because even though I'm sitting in darkness, there's a light that's coming. Even though I've fallen, I'm going to arise. And Micah firmly believes this, that regardless of what happens, and in spite of the situations, and in spite of the circumstances, in spite of everything that's going on, and everything that is happening, everything that will happen, here's what Micah fully believes, that if he retains and keeps his trust in God, that everything for Micah is going to be okay. And you know what? In spite of what's going on in the world today, if our hope and our trust and our security is in the Almighty, if we're trusting in Jesus Christ, guess what? It's all going to be all right. It's all going to be okay. Sometimes it may not look like it. Sometimes it may not feel like it. Sometimes it may not seem like it. But here's what we know today. As Micah looks at his enemies and says, you better not be laughing too hard, and you better not be scowling too much, because you better not be rejoicing against me, because when I fall, I'm going to get up. Because when I'm sitting in darkness, the Lord is going to be a light unto me. It's not going to stay this way, and it's not going to stay in this pattern, in this fashion, and in this way. And here's what we know, that whatever it is that we're experiencing in this walk of life, it too shall pass. It's going to pass. And here's what I found. When you're sitting in total darkness, you only need a little bit of light to make a great big difference. Now, if right now I was to light a cigarette lighter, it wouldn't make that much of a difference as far as the light in here. You come back at midnight with the lights off, it makes a great big difference. And here's what we know. Micah says to his enemies, you better not laugh too much, because when I fall, I'm going to rise. When there's darkness, the Lord's going to be my light. We see here his confidence. We see a persistent prayer in verse number 7. We see a patient prayer in verse 7, a persistent hope in verse number 8. And then in verse number 9, we see a personal restoration. Micah here makes an admission. He says, talking of himself, I will bear the indignation of the Lord. Why? Because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Micah says here, there's going to be a personal restoration. Micah says, I've got to endure the indignation of the Lord. Why? Because I've sinned. Because I've sinned, I've got to endure this indignation. Because I've sinned, I've got to suffer. Because I've sinned, then I've got to go through the effects of what it is that I've caused. He says, I'm going to have to bear the indignation of the Lord because I've sinned against him, until God pleads his case and executes his judgment for him. Micah here says there's going to be a personal restoration. Micah here knows that, as he surveys the land and he surveys the people there in the first part of this chapter, as he looks around and says, hey, there's nobody that's good, and all of them are corrupt, and nobody's doing what they're supposed to do, and even the best of them is a briar. Micah here understands this, that he's included in that. And because of that, he understands that he's going to have to bear some indignation because of his sin. But he also understands that there's going to be a personal restoration that'll come as well. He says, but he's going to plead my cause. He's going to execute judgment for me. Here's what he will do. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Micah says here, I know that God's going to restore me and bring me back. He's going to bring me to the light. He's going to bring me back to the place that I should have never left. He's going to bring me back to that place. I'm going to have to suffer because of my sin, but He's going to bring me back forth to the light, and then I'm going to be able to behold His righteousness. Micah here understands the confidence that he has. We see a concern, a corruption, a controversy. We see confidence, and lastly, I want you to notice in verse 10, there's a correction. When all this occurs, Micah says this will happen. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it. And shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her. Now she shall be trodden down as the mire of the streets. We see the correction. Micah looks around and he understands that his nation is in a bad shape at this particular time. Micah understands that his political system and his religious system is full of corruption. Micah understands that this is all drained him and pulled all the joy and peace out of his life. And Micah understands, exactly what's occurred and what's happened. And he knows that he's part of the guilty. He understands that his sin has caused the indignation of God. But he believes that he believes that God will restore him, and he's going to look unto God, and he's going to believe in God. He's going to trust in God. He's going to wait on God. He's going to do all of those things because he knows as much as he can fall, God can bring him up. He knows as dark as it is that God can bring him light. He knows that no matter what's happening and what's occurring and what's going on, that the people that are in the world are not the ones that are in charge, and they're not the ones that's in control. They're not the ones that's calling all the shots. And we understand this today. It's not us that's calling the shots. It's not Washington that's calling the shots. It's not Raleigh that's calling the shots. It's not Richmond that's calling the shots. It's God who's calling the shots. And Micah realizes this and knows that there'll be a correction. Now, if you look across, the history of the political landscape of our nation, we take swings, right? Sometimes we swing to the right. Sometimes we swing to the left. But most of the time, we kind of find our way back to the middle, so to speak. Now, of course, we would prefer it if it swung to the right and stayed over there, but it generally tries to find its way to the middle. It kind of self-corrects. And it's hard for people to understand this sometimes, but if your car's out of control, sometimes the best thing to do is let go of the wheel, because you're going to make it worse. And it tends to have the ability to self-correct sometimes. We see here that Micah says there's going to be a self-correction. Micah says, yep, there's corruption, but yep, God's got me and going to take care of me. And in verse number 10, he shows us correction. Then she that is my enemy shall see it. What is our hope? What is it that we want? We want people to understand who God is. We want them to understand who it is or what it is that God can do for them, and who it is that they need to be trusting in. And we see the correction here. When this happens to Micah, the enemy is going to see it and understand it. Shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? People are much the same in today's time, in today's society. They're questioning, what the Bible has to say, and they question why you believe what you believe, and they question why you think what you think, and they question why it is that you take these actions and do these things. For a lot of people, for you to come to church on Sunday morning, senseless. That's a waste of time. For you to come Wednesday night for Bible study, that's senseless. That's just a waste of time. But guess what's going to happen someday? They're going to see something that makes them realize, well, maybe they were doing it right after all. Maybe what they got is something that I want. The enemy sees it. Shame covers the enemy. Those that have said, where's the Lord? Where are they at now? He says, mine eyes shall behold her. Now she shall be trodden down as the mire of the streets. It's easy to look around and say, well, our political system is corrupt, and it might be. And it's easy to look around and say, well, you know, our religious systems are corrupt. And in a lot of cases, that's true as well. But here's what we know, that eventually God will do the correction. We're not going to do the correction. We're the ones that made the mess. We're the ones that caused all. Man is the one that is at fault. But we know that God will make the correction. Verse 10, then when she, that is mine enemy, sees all this, when she sees what it is that God is doing, God will be the one that'll make the correction. And when we put all this together, we can easily go from lamentation to celebration. Bad thing, don't take this any other way. Bad things are going to happen in your life. Some of them will not be your fault. Some of them will. Some of them you had absolutely no control of them. Some of them you do. But bad things are going to happen. And I imagine that most of us can put ourselves in Micah's shoes right here when he looks around and says, hey, the whole thing's rigged, right? There are times that I wonder, you know, there are times I think professional wrestling is about the most real thing out there in today's time. Because at least they're willing to tell you it's not real, right? These other things, I don't know if it is or not. But we know this, that no matter how rigged the system is, and no matter how bad things are, and no matter how bad people are, and no matter how dark it gets, we do know this, that God offers the correction. And Micah here understands that. And because of that, he goes from woe is me, he goes from lamentation to celebration in verse number 10. Let's have our heads bowed, our eyes closed for just a moment.